everyone, for making it to our final session of South Summit. I'm really excited to see folks here. Like I said, welcome to our final session, the Great Remigration. This session will literally bring us home. So we're joined by Abraham Felix and Stevee-Rayne Warren to help us imagine a new South where boundaries of success are expansive, sprawling, and vibrant. In today's expansive digital space, the borders of success in the film industry are being redefined beyond the New York, LA business model. But as Southern filmmakers whose art and heart calls the South home, what does it mean to be successful in the film industry? And how do we build structures and support systems that foster storytelling from home? Before we dive in, let me tell you a little bit about our panelists today. We are joined by Abraham Felix, a New Orleans-based filmmaker whose soulful neo-realist work explores complex human characters, navigating the structural framework of society. Focusing on crucial truths embedded in every storyline, he brings a grounded, confident thoughtfulness to his commercial and narrative work, which aims to shift culture towards a more humane, just, and inclusive place. He is a Young Director Award winner, a 1.4 award winner, a 2-time Clio Award winner, a D&AD graphic pencil winner, and has been shortlisted for AICP and Webby Awards. He's currently directing a feature documentary and is in development for his first narrative feature. Welcome, Abraham. And Stevee-Rayne Warren is a producer, creative recruitment, and social responsibility specialist. She is the workforce program director at New Orleans Video Access Center, where through consulting partnerships with major studios, he manages community-driven production training and placement programs locally and across the country. Stevee-Rayne graduated from Southern University and A&M with a bachelor's in English literature and liberal arts. She's also an ABFF Greenlighter Fellowship alum. She's currently based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and is the mother of an 8-year-old daughter. Just a reminder, there will be a Q&A at the end of the session. So folks tuning in, please drop your questions in the chat box throughout the discussion. And with that, I'll get right into it. Welcome, Stevie. Welcome, Abraham. Abe. I know you as Abe. How you feeling?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining, Stevie. I think you're on mute, Stevie.
Am I muted?
Oh, no, now you're not. Now we hear you. Awesome. We got you here. Awesome. So this is similar to yesterday, on the Building on Bones session that I did. I kind of wanted to start off the talk with really claiming our Southernness, right? Like I said, the South is a spectrum of cultures, foods, accents. No Southern state is the same. So I guess to kick us off, introduce yourself and tell us whatever you want us to know about yourself, your pronouns, and where are you claiming as your South? What's your Southernness? Anybody can go. You can kick us off, Stevie. What's your Southernness? Tell us about your South.
Okay, cool. Thank you again for having me. I am Stevee-Rayne. My pronouns are she, her. And I am born and raised Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I've lived in Louisiana pretty much all my life. And right now I am based in Baton Rouge. And my family has been in Louisiana for 5 generations. We have folks here in Baton Rouge and in New Roads, Louisiana.
Cool. And thanks for having me as well. It's a pleasure and an honor to be a part of the South Summit. I'll just start off by saying, I'm Abraham Felix, a film director based in New Orleans currently, pronouns he, him. I'm from Louisiana, born and raised. Family's been here, for, I checked with my mom and she says 6 generations, but 7th if we include the new babies. So I think six for me. We've got a mix of African, Native American, Spanish cultures. In our bloodline. My mom was a Creole sharecropper. That's what her family did. They were just tied directly into the agricultural landscape. My dad is was and is a preacher basically my whole life. They're both from the Acadiana area. I think their stomping grounds was like Cecilia, Karen Crow, Bro Bridge, and then I think for them, the big city was Lafayette. And so when I was born in Lafayette, and then my family moved to Baton Rouge when I was 8. And so I lived the bulk of my life in Baton Rouge. So I tell people most of the time I'm from Baton Rouge, but I've been living in New Orleans for the last 5 or 6 years. So just been traveling down I-10 East my whole life. And yeah, blessed to be here.
Nice. So y'all deep, y'all southern. Like,
South Louisiana.
been here. So exactly. So this is
My
turning
name
to,
is spelled like the city Rain in Louisiana. So it's like,
oh wow. Yeah, the deep love Louisiana. Nice. This is turned into a Louisiana appreciation talk. I love it. So yeah, both of y'all have chosen to call the South home. Both of you are very accomplished in what you do. I mean, I want to say big time, right? Like Abe, you're directing really amazing stuff, and Steve, you're doing some work reaching across networks and making sure we're plugging in local Louisiana with these opportunities. You mean you came into Shonda, was it Shonda Rhimes DM? You slide into her DM?
No, it was Ava DuVernay. It was Ava DuVernay.
Oh, okay, Ava DuVernay. So yeah, you're out here doing the work big time, where you can possibly, I mean, you can essentially be doing it anywhere, but you're born here, you're raised here, and you're choosing to stay here and do work. Why? Why do you choose to explore, Abe, why do you choose to explore stories in the South? And Stevie, why do you choose to support storytelling in the South, your home?
Yeah, great question. I'll jump in. Why am I still here? And I think a lot of people think of it that way, but for me, the South is home. Like Louisiana is home specifically. Like there's so much to love here. There's such a rich culture, rich history, rich food. There's I think for me, what's kept me here is like the pace of life and the people primarily. Whenever I kind of figured out that in college that filmmaking is the path that I kind of wanted to go on, I was like trying to figure out for a long time, what actually is filmmaking. I didn't have a whole lot of like role models or mentors as far as filmmaking is concerned. So it took me a while to kind of figure out. And then once I figured out, hey, this is what filmmaking is, this is how you do it. Once I learned a little more after a few years, it really became clear that what I needed was community, and what I needed was time to develop my voice and myself as an artist. And I think the South and like living in Louisiana, living in New Orleans has really helped me do that. It's really helped me find my people. I think a lot of people think about the South as being like full of genteel, quaint, stupid people, and in reality, I think nothing couldn't be further from the truth. This is really a place where we find culture, we find community, and we build community like very intentionally with one another down here. And I think that that's something that I really needed, because like I said, coming up the way I came up, I didn't have a whole lot of community in the film industry. I just didn't know people, and I didn't have a lot of folks who, felt like they were interested in the things I was interested in until, I moved out to New Orleans and really kind of, found community here with, starting with you, Zuri, and Emerging Voices back in 2018, and that whole cohort there. So shout out the Film Society for that. But it was, it's really like, it's the people and the pace. And so I talked about people and just like very quickly talking about pace. We do have a slower pace here, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's actually more human. It's more humane in a lot of ways. And I think that when I'm talking about pace, I'm talking about like the pace of life. We don't move at the same speed as they do in Philly and New York. We don't move at the same speed as people do in Portland and Arizona. Like we move at the pace that we're comfortable with. And I think for me as an artist, not having to deal with the grind of the subway and, having to, deal with like New York traffic and things like that really helped me to just like find myself and find my voice as an artist at a pace that felt natural and still feels natural to me, as opposed to, like moving to New York or LA, something like that, like people generally do, a lot of people do, trying to chase down their dreams. I just really think that I don't want to be chasing a dream. I want to be like attracting the dream to me, by me becoming who I am and the best version of myself. And I feel like the South really allows me to do that.
All right. Yes, you are a preacher's son. You did say that.
An orator. Yes, he is.
Yes, you are. Stevie, yes, like tell us, and again, yeah, thank you, Abe, for those words. Stevie, why do you choose to support storytelling from home?
I think so. When I first got into the film industry, so to speak, I didn't know anyone like Abe. I didn't come from, family members who were in the industry, didn't really have relationships or a network of people. But I saw that they were filming things here. So I'm like, well, there is opportunity here. And for me, I wanted to hone in on that and make sure that people were aware that if they don't want to leave, they don't have to. I don't think it's anything wrong with, so I know people who legitimately like it's their dream to live in LA. If that's what you want to do, then that's one thing. But a lot of people leave because it's a barrier for them to stay here. There's not enough opportunity for them. And it's not always a lack of opportunity, it's a lack of knowledge. So for me, I always was like very like drawn to helping people bridge that knowledge gap of like what actually is available to them. And then I came from just like a lot of my family members were underemployed. So I remember just like seeing them hustle, being in the gig economy and all of those things, and wanting to actually like personally help the people around me. Like, oh, I have a cousin who's an electrician. Now he works in the film industry. Or like my mom went to school for clothing and textiles. She's now a costumer. So like, it really was very much so wanting to help the people around me at first. And then that, of course, extended to like my community who weren't like biologically related to me, of course. And I started to get connected to organizations like NOVAC and the New Orleans Film Society and things like that. But yeah, I think I didn't want to like sit here and complain about, oh, it's nothing for it. We can't be in the industry. I wanted to like help be, as corny as it sounds, be the change. So I've just kind of always been committed to that. And then as far as like not leaving on a personal note, I've never felt the urge to. I've never wanted to leave. I'm somebody who's very close to my family. I like being around them and having access to them, in person. So that was something that also that drove me to wanting to stay here and wanting to build community here. And it's, I get people ask me all the time, like, it'll be after something that I've accomplished and that I'm very proud of and trying to sit in. And they're like, so when are you moving to New York? When are you moving to LA? And I'm like, I'm not. The work that I'm doing now, if I'm able to do it here comfortably and in a place that I feel welcome and supported in, why would I leave, right? So I want to be able to like help people get to that space as much as I can. And that's kind of what drives me to want to continue to live in the South, live in Louisiana in particular, and help other people fulfill whatever dreams they want to do and get to whatever metrics of success that they have for themselves without having to uproot themselves when they don't have to.
And for you, it's deeper than just choosing to stay home. You're working to build up home, right? Because you could be you could be on your laptop remote working for someone in LA, working for an LA company, working for a New York company, but you're home doing the work of building up home, literally building sanctuaries in home, right? And another thing that really struck me too was this idea that, a lot of the folks that we know are already doing these set jobs. They're just not doing it on set, right? The electrician and sewing, like, it's like this barrier in thinking that, oh, I have never been on a set, so I don't have experience. But, a lot of these skills that set or high budget, high quality productions need are folks just like getting through the day in the South, right? Like this idea of like pulling up your sleeve and doing what needs to be done. Like, so it's really interesting that there is a barrier for folks that are in the South to these like higher production that come to the South or, or stay here feeling like, oh, we need to bring folks from our space, right, to kind of work our sets because we don't know if they can work, right?
Yeah.
So this idea of like, yeah, we want to come tell stories in the South, but it's not really staffed by Southern folks, right?
Yeah.
And that gets into my next question of like extractive storytelling and like how we love the South. Like even people who are not from the South, people who are in other countries come and like have, for better or for worse, they have this romanticized idea of the South, whatever it is. And I think a lot of times, when we have this kind of call to action to have more equitable productions, more equality in the film industry with productions in the South. And then these production companies are like, great, yeah, we're going to make a movie in the South, but we're not going to, staff it with certain people. Or as you said, it's only the gig stage, right? Production stage, not pre-production, right? And not a lot of posts. They started in LA, shoot it here, and then go back to LA, right? So this idea of storytelling that feels equitable, but at the core of it, it feels extractive, right? And at New Orleans, one of our submission questions, or the New Orleans Film Society, one submission question that we ask explicitly is, how close are you to the story, right? Because we really want to champion stories by people of the community and kind of combat extractiveness. And this idea of folks coming in to tell other folks' stories, right? So like, why is it important, I think for you, Abe, see if you can jump in too, because from the support angle, why is it important for you as a filmmaker to tell stories about your town, your city, your community, as opposed to any other stories that could be lucrative, that could help your career take off, right? A lot of your work, Abe, is shot here. So why do you choose that when you can be flown somewhere else and doing, you have that capital, right? That social capital.
Yeah. I mean, great question. And this gets back to, what Stevie was just talking about, which is just like, how do we build up the community? I look at you called it extractive storytelling. I look at it exactly that way. Like there have been so many productions that come here. They hire our people, pay them very low, the smallest amount they can possibly pay them, pay us. And then, like whenever the production is done, it's peace out and back to LA, back to New York, back to wherever else, London, wherever else. And, people are just left here, fighting for scraps, fighting for that next job just to make ends meet. And, I think for me, what I'm, trying to do is to build up the community, build it up in as best a way as I can as, a director at the moment. Let me not, like, I intend to be a director for a very long time. Let me not just say like at the moment.
I was going to say,
well, there may be some other things that I may be able to do, later in my career as I, hopefully become more and more successful. I may be able to, start organizations and have a larger production company that supports artists differently. Those are goals and dreams of mine. But I can't do them at this point because I'm still just trying to like, survive and thrive myself. But yeah, I think for me, the reason I root a lot of my stories here, I mean, whether or not my films, my narrative films specifically, or documentary films, 100% feel like they are like targeted to Louisiana audiences. The goal is always that the story is coming from me as a Louisianian. The heart of the story is rooted in my personal experience in some way, shape, or form that is deeply like tied to the land, tied to history, tied to my own like family history. It's those things that I've been, to this point in my career, like learning to grapple with. And now, as a more experienced filmmaker to a degree, I feel like I'm, just now coming into the ability to really like speak on those things in my art in the way that I always want to. And I've always wanted to, and that involves like working with Louisiana people and filming in Louisiana. That's my hometown. This is a place where, like, it's my dream to like get $100 million budget for a movie, and then like film it in Louisiana, while like living in Louisiana and hiring all Louisiana people, and then doing posts with the same people who I've been like doing posts with and building relationships with this whole time. That's what I want to do. That's the way I want to give back to the people who have poured so much into me and supported me so much on my filmmaking journey. So it has a lot to do with just like wanting to build up the people here, wanting to build up my friends, my loved ones, the young filmmakers who I see coming up after me, who are sliding into my DMs every month, just like asking questions, and I see so much of myself as a young filmmaker in them. I just want to give back, and then I'd say the other part of that answer is on a practical side of things, it is a bit cheaper to work here, and that's not, and I'm not talking about like, and it's like, it's not about like devaluing people. It's just about like, things cost less in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Louisiana,
Eggs have never been $10 here. Never.
Right. Exactly.
They'll burn this place down.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a combination of those things, just like giving back, and then this is a cheaper place to build. It's a cheaper place to grow, and just kind of do it at the pace that you do it at. And I think that all we need here is opportunity. And so if I can be ultimately down the line someone who is connecting people to better and better opportunity, like that's what I want to be doing.
I like to say economically efficient, not cheaper.
There we go. That's good. Taking that.
Yeah, we can make that dollar stretch down here. Bring your production dollars down here. Okay, make it stretch.
Yes. Economically efficient.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, Stevie, how does your work to supporting storytellers who are here help shape and the perspectives about the South, right? These folks who are telling stories about their home, how does that directly tie into your work?
Yeah, I mean, I for the most part recruit on the physical production level. I don't recruit or do any talent acquisition on like above the line type jobs. However, I personally see people who work in crafts as filmmakers. Like if you work in the art department, if you work in costumes, wherever locations, it's a collective medium. And I mean, it's a collaborative medium. So I'm always trying to figure out how to connect with new talent while simultaneously trying to help people who are already in the industry like elevate, so that they can get to a point where they're making those creative decisions as a costume designer, as a production designer, as a hair and makeup lead or what have you. So and I think it makes all the difference. It's so many things that we're watching that it's based in Louisiana, or the person is supposed to be from Louisiana, and it's just not it's not clicking. And a lot of that has to do with people not being from the place that this story is being told from. They're not in those places of power when it comes to making creative decisions. So I'm always trying to help people figure out what next steps do they need to take, so that they can be in a role that has more creative leeway, I would say. So whether that's, help if they choose to want to go in like a union route, helping them figure that process out. If they're trying to connect with filmmakers like Abe, who are hiring, who are committed to hiring, Louisiana-based crew, and giving them the space to be able to, flex their creative muscle, just trying to help in that way as much as I can. Because I noticed, like in the last, let's say 10 years, there's been an enthusiasm for all of this diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and all of these things. But I it's always at the entry level, level. It just stops there, and it's like, go fly, you'll figure it out. Whereas people need support, especially people from marginalized communities. You're putting them into an environment that they're the only one that looks like them. So of course they're going to need some additional support because they have additional barriers. So yeah, I don't know if I even answered your question, but my work
Yeah,
kind of
definitely.
like meeting people where they are basically and helping them navigate and be able to elevate, you know, in the space that they want to go into.
I feel like this South Summit has been like a low-key Novak fan club, right? I feel like everyone has shout out Novak, and there might not be a lot of folks that know what Novak is and what it does. So if you can just give, just some context a little bit, you could, take some time if you want to explain to us what is the New Orleans Video Access Center and your specific role. And some of the programs that you kind of lead to help support filmmakers. I know you're part of 3 of them. So this is actually school time, folks. If you want to write some of this down, this is Steve's about to drop some knowledge. And also, if you are recognizing that Novak is similar to a organization that's in your South, please drop that in the link as well so folks can know what their local community has to offer. So Stevie, tell us what everyone's been like gushing about with Novak.
I love it. I was on a session earlier and somebody mentioned Novak. I was like, okay, represent. So yeah, New Orleans Video Access Center, or Novak for short. We are a filmmaking resource nonprofit. We have an array of services, but our main 4 programs are youth digital media. So we work with middle to high school age youth and helping them get access to education and credentials in the digital media space. So like Adobe and all of those different types of things. And then we have, and they're able to make their own films and things like that. Abe, didn't you teach one of the youth digital media? Yeah, I thought you too, Zuri. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I taught one.
Yeah, and we get quality instructors for the kids, as you can see. We also have creative services, which leans more towards the independent filmmaker. So Novak can serve as a fiscal sponsor if you are crowdfunding for your film in Louisiana and you need a fiscal sponsor. We also have inventory for equipment, cameras, lighting equipment, sound equipment here in New Orleans for our members. And then we also, the creative service team, they facilitate filmmaker cohorts. I think we have an active cohort right now. It's the second one so far with this particular with these particular managers, Kelsey and Guion. And the filmmakers from last year, their films were able to screen at New Orleans Film Festival. One of them actually won the audience prize. So those folks are off to do great things, and the current cohort are also, on their way. And then we have archival services, which is kind of like the bread and butter of, or the start of what Novak kind of started to do way back in the 70s. This year is actually our 51st year. We've been in service for 51 years. And then we have our workforce development program, which is where I primarily work. I'm the workforce program director. And I work with our wonderful workforce manager, Chantrell Green, and our coordinator, Kenneth White. And I manage 2 main programs. One is our community career program, which essentially is our local education and job placement support program. So all of these kind of studios that have maybe some type of like program or initiative where they want to bring on paid interns, they can come to Novak and we can refer candidates from our training pool for those opportunities. And then I also refer them for PA opportunities. And then once they've gotten into the program, they're alumni, they've gotten experience. A lot of our former trainees are now in their respective unions. So, refer them for those type of opportunities. And then we also have a partnership program with a couple studios. So I manage all of our studio partnership programs, one of which is it's here locally, but I also work with them on a national scale. So I work with them on all of their productions and across the country. And then Louisiana, we have a film tax credit. And essentially productions can receive the career readiness tax incentive if they provide some type of educational experience. So, and by hiring interns from Novak, because we're an approved organization, they can receive that incentive. And then in turn, because they are hiring people who are local to Louisiana, it's mission in line for us because we're trying to help people not only get training, but actually access to these jobs. This industry is it's built on cronyism. Like, you got to know people, like that's, you hear it all the time. So we try to be that liaison between that, because if you don't know anybody, then how will you, so we have great relationships with a lot of the local ADs and production supervisors and department heads, and they come to us for recommendations when they're wanting to bring on new faces and new talent. And we also have networking and professional development, opportunities at Novak. We're led by our wonderful leader, India King Robbins, who's our executive director. We have an office in New Orleans, off Carrollton, and we also have an office in Baton Rouge, which is where I'm at right now.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you so much for explaining that and like clarifying, because I know a lot of folks who are local know what Novak is, but those who might not be local might not have an idea. I know BAFAC is kind of like that, but they're probably, their umbrella, I don't know if it reaches as far as the services they provide, but if you have a local community that's like Novak, please drop that so that folks can be in touch with their local, the filmmaking community. And Abe, so you talked about how Novak got you your start. Stevie just mentioned like all these ways that, they work to help connect filmmakers, to help stories get told. What was the specific way that your trajectory from connecting with Novak to being this, amazing director that's out here doing things like popping off? What's the journey?
Well, it's a great question. For me, I think my journey actually started before I knew of Novak. Like, it started in college for me. After college, it's like the middle of the recession. The recession that started in 2008.
The other recession.
Get specific about recessions now. But it started in 2010, and I started in the industry as a wedding film editor in Baton Rouge, because that was what I had the ability to do, given that I didn't know anything about the industry. Like, I really didn't know anything, but I had edited enough in college that I could, doing journalism, broadcast journalism, that I could apply those skills to editing wedding films. And so I kind of learned the industry from the ground up, from the wedding film industry at the beginning. And so I did that job between 2010 and 2013. And I, during that 3-year period, the guys who were there at the company, who were the shooters, really taught me how to shoot, how to be a cinematographer. So I, just kind of started to build up skills and just kind of followed my curiosity. And then this is when Novak kind of came into the picture for me, is around 2013, 2014, when I got hired at a production company in Baton Rouge called Launch Media. And we just so happened to be in the same office building as Novak. And so, I'm in there with, I want to say, who was it at the time? It was Elizabeth, I'm blanking on her last name, forgive me. Yeah, Elizabeth Hutchison, who was there first. And then quickly, Jillian Gottschall came afterward. And then Darcy McKinnon, who was the ED of Novak, would come in. And so you just kind of get to talking to whoever's around you. And then, I had no idea what Novak was, but then, they just informed me of all these amazing things that that Novak had to offer. And then I honestly think the first thing I did with Novak was I taught like a cinematography class way back in the day, which Stevie has embarrassing pictures of me doing, way back in the day. And so that was the start. And then since then, just kind of like she said, it's cronyism, and just like people who wanted to support me as like an individual, which is what I really think is what sets Novak apart. Like, Darcy and Jillian really like looked at me and saw me and said like, hey, you're the exact person we want to be investing in. You're the exact person who we want to be supporting. And, you know, it took me a while to like really accept the support. But then like once I really kind of figured out, you know, okay, yeah, this industry actually is really hard. You actually really need a lot of support to navigate it, to survive in it. You know, that was when I kind of started to do some other projects that they put in front of me. You know, did a little documentary project, taught more classes, just kind of tried to help out and give back as much as I can. So yeah, it's been an evolving, I guess, an evolving journey. And so what it's really kind of cool to have started, you know, with like a cinematography workshop in 2014, 2015, and then, you know, 2023, you know, I just did another Novak class about commercial directing, because that's where my, you know, that's how far my career has come as I've kind of figured out, you know, what I'm interested in and what I really want to be doing in the industry. So, you know, it's just, it feels like it's like full circle in a way, but it's not. It's really just like the continuation of, you know, giving back and receiving back from Novak, you know, and other community organizations. But I feel like Novak is probably the most prominent, yeah, for me.
Yeah, it's just interesting too, because it's like there's so many ways that Novak kind of, and I promise y'all, this is not sponsored by although although, you know, you could drop those dollars. But yeah, there's just so many ways that, again, we're talking about sanctuaries, talking about support systems that, you know, keep you doing work from home if you choose to stay home, right? So there's other organizations that are doing this that are local. But of course, for me, my personal experience with just being in the film industry has started with Novak. Yeah, y'all used to, I still do, rent equipment. Remember there was like the Canon TI.
Oh yeah,
TI.
Forgot about that. Yeah, I used to rent some gear on the cheap. Yep.
Yeah.
Right. I used to flip the screen. I got little green screen stuff, walking around shooting, and it was just a cheap way of starting to shoot because cameras are expensive, right? And then I decided like, oh, I'm going to buy a camera. But that really led me to firmly deciding to be a DP, right? And to start shooting and to start using this as a way of storytelling. And, you know, I'm of the Darcy era when Darcy was running Novak, and Darcy put me in direct contact with Live Nation. And that's how I was able to get in touch with Lizzo and, you know, follow her around and do a doc for her, right? That's now on HBO. And like, that was just the greatest, single most just propelling experience of my career in my life, right? And I'm, you know, coming back to work here and just pushing out into other spaces. It's just helped me feel successful, right? And I have my definition of success, and I'm still negotiating it as far as like, what does it mean to be a successful DP? What does it mean to be a successful programmer or storyteller? And that's shifting for me to have more Southern sensibility, if that makes sense. You know, I don't think my success is like, I want to be shooting, you know, Hollywood budget films around the world. Like, I kind of want to do a weird film with some weird people from the South that's super cool, super intimate, and that I can just rock with, right? That's my definition of success. If I'm able to pay my bills doing that, just following these kind of niche stories that are wild and wacky and help me develop my creative lens and the way of looking, I find that to be successful. What's your definition of success juxtaposed to the film industry? Because it's so easy to just be like, in the film industry, it's glitz, it's glamour, it's star eyes. But like in the South, I feel like it's the opposite, right? When people be like, oh, you Hollywood, huh? It's not a good thing when they say, oh, you Hollywood, right?
Not a compliment.
Not a compliment. Like, you think you Hollywood now, huh? Yeah, what is your definition of success, and what factors have gone into the construction of that definition for you?
That's a really good question. I think the same with you. You say you're still negotiating it. I'm like constantly like reconciling, trying to figure out what it means to me. And also like, I'm very like, I try to be hyper aware of like not letting other people project what they think success is on me. And I think, and that's just kind of something that you have to be aware of, and you're constantly unlearning. But to me, I think I try to like detach from this idea of like a certain studio or a certain company or anything like that. Like, what exactly is my goal, or what's at the root of what I want to do. And I want to help people help themselves. Like that's always my kind of like ethos. I want people to be able to be liberated in their career trajectory. I don't want them to be dependent on me or dependent on an organization or dependent on a company for them to be able to maneuver within this industry. So whenever I hear back from people and they're telling me about their progress in this industry and I had nothing to do with it, I love that. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like you've taken the opportunity that you got, you know, from maybe a program that I managed or a referral that I sent out, and you've been able to run with it. You've built your own community, your own relationships, and now you're leaving the light on for other people. So for me, that's success. Like if I'm doing that at the end of the day, I'm successful. I don't have to be in California, in New York to do those things. So yeah, that's success to me.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, community is the cornerstone of your success.
Yes.
Pretty much. Feels like a Hallmark card, but it's true. It's true. Be the change. But hey, what's your definition of success, and what factors go into that definition for you?
Yeah, you know, I think for me, I'm a curious person. I always have been since I was a kid. I'm interested in a lot of things. I'm interested in a lot of different ideas, you know, and I have always had a love of narrative fiction features, you know, like that's really that's what excited me as a kid, and it still excites me today. Like that's what I love. That's why I got into all of this, is just because I love movies. And so, you know, I think for me, that definition of success is, you know, like I know I want to be making movies, you know, and so for me, that definition is, I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it, which is like a very broad definition. But you know, I feel like I don't want to be limited when it comes to, you know, my future and my potential. Like I want to be able to like make you know, a $10 million picture in Louisiana that's about Louisiana, that's dealing with like personal, you know, things to me and my family. Like I want to make that small indie picture, but at the same time, you know, I would love to get a $200 million budget from Lucasfilm to go shoot a Black Star Wars movie in Uganda. You know what I'm saying? Like,
come on, location.
Like I said, I'm interested in a lot of things, and so I'm just trying to build a career where I just have access to you know, to budgets, to people who can help me like build those things. You know, I want to be doing really great commercials at the same time. You know, commercials are really a great way to just get reps and to get practice, to work with crews all around the world. I love to travel. Like I say, I love the South. I love being here. I don't want to be limited to being here. Like I want to choose to be here, you know? And at this moment I do choose to be here. I can like move somewhere else and figure it out, like make it work. But you know, for me, it really is just about like, how am I building to get to that point in my career where I can do what I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it, with the people I want to do it with. Like, you know, it may sound crazy, but like I would love to be able to like in a couple years, like call Denzel Washington and be like, hey man, read this script. Let's work on it. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. Like that's not a realistic thing, but that is a goal, that is a possibility. Crazier things have happened in this industry, in this world, you know? And so I think for me, it's just about like not limiting my potential, you know, and figuring out what my potential is. Maybe that is my definition of success. Now that I'm talking it through, it might just be about, you know, finding the limit of my potential, and you know, and doing it as equitably as I possibly can, you know, given the state of this industry and this world. You know, and it's exactly what Stevie said. You don't have to be in New York and LA to make that happen. You know, I feel like I'm, you know, knock on wood, like well on my way to making some of those things a reality, being here in South Louisiana, which is crazy because so many people have had to move, and have left to like to try to chase that dream. You know, I guess I'm just trying to figure out if I can do it if I can do it from here. So
yeah.
yeah, that's really it. It's just I want to do what I want to do, and that's everybody's at the heart of the at the end of the day. That's probably at the heart of everybody's definition of success, is like wanting to do what they want to do. And for me, that changes. Like what I want changes as I adapt to this world, as I adapt to the circumstances on the ground. That it is what it is. What I want now is different than what I wanted 5 years ago, is different what I knew was possible 5 years ago. And hopefully, I'm continuing to build upon that and continue to learn and continue learning and just like continue to build on that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for no, like you go in. Like we already established this. You're the preacher's son. We get sermons here. So like don't limit yourself. But yeah, it's just interesting how like you brought up choice as success, right? This idea of choosing, and that's what this talk is about. It's not necessarily shaming those that wanted to go to New York or LA, or making it like something that, the South is this holy grail where you can get anything done. It's specifically to support those that choose to stay in the South or choose to relocate in the South and call the South home, not just come here and extract, but come here and be part of the community. Like, for instance, Angela, who's from New York, who is very much a New Orleanian now. Like, people from New Orleans, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. My bad. Take it back. Let me walk it back. Okay. But very much local, but not a native. Right. And, I thank you for just saying that. And also this idea of success being not the permission, but the space and the longitude or latitude really to explore your potential. And sometimes that means leaving, right? Yeah. Sometimes you have to leave to come back full. Right. If you feel like there's things that you are missing from home, going out to seek them and coming back can actually be something that's constructive and building to not only yourself and the community as well. So yeah, thank you for just sharing that insight and those words. And just speaking of success, a lot of the work that you do, Stevie, it's basically, you're like the colloquial, like I think affectionately known as the plug, right? Stevie Make It Rain Warren, right?
Oh, I like that.
Right. The Stevie Make It Rain Warren, right? You're the plug. And so you help people actualize their success, or at least start to envision a success that they are able to reach, or stepping stones that they're able to reach. And, I could talk about some of the projects that you've been proud of, or that you've been a part of, but do you have any particular, not programs, but like success connections that you feel very proud of, or any shows that you've helped staffed with like people from Baton Rouge or the South that, have basically their lives have changed being part of these huge productions? What are you most proud of? Or you could talk about all of them, because they're all to be proud of, really. Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, I've been really privileged to work with some great productions and producers and whatnot, helping people get crewed up. One that's just kind of like top of mind though is the series National Treasure that filmed in Baton Rouge. And the story is actually based in Baton Rouge. You don't see that a lot. So being able to see, like, I'm from what they call Old South Baton Rouge. It's also called the Top, which is like near downtown. And so they filmed in a lot of areas where like I literally grew up, like hanging out. Candy Lady was right around the corner from one of the locations. Like, it was very like,
you got a Hucklebuck Lady?
A lot. But they hired a bunch of Baton Rouge natives, like my mom included, a couple of my mentees, like a bunch of our trainees that went through NOVAC trainings that were specifically for Baton Rouge residents. So I was really proud of that one. And it was a Jerry Bruckheimer, Disney Plus project that, gave a lot of people a platform, and that being on their resume is going to help them be able to get more opportunities. I think in New Orleans, it's been a lot, especially like from like 2019 to last year. Production was pretty heavy. Of course, Queen Sugar has it's been, a great production that we've been able to get people staffed on, and they've been able to work. They have been able to work on their production for years and be able to make a livelihood and things like that. Project Power was a good one that really not only did they hire interns and PAs and physical production crew, but they donated to Novak right after Hurricane Ida. So we were able to give funds to local filmmakers through that donation that they gave us. So like just stuff like that. And I think they had like maybe a local UPM or something like that. So it makes a difference when people at that level are like actually based in Louisiana and they know, who needs the help and all of those things. And then just like on a national scale, I think Joker was a really fun one to do. That was one of the first features that because I typically work a lot in the scripted television side, but Joker was one of the first features that I had the privilege to work with. And that was in Newark, New Jersey, I'm always excited to work in cities outside of just like LA, Atlanta, and New York. But that particular team, the ADs and the locations team, they did like an impromptu PA intensive for like 15 people, and then they ended up hiring them for the remainder of the shoot. I wish more productions would do stuff like that. And then of course, like Insecure was a big one, and just very like personally special to me because I was in high school when YouTube kind of was popping off. So I grew up watching Issa Rae. So being able to recruit for that production for all 4 or 5 seasons was great. And yeah, there have been so many productions, especially I feel like in between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, that have been launch pads for a lot of people's careers. And I'm just proud to have played a little bitty part in like helping them, get to, where they are now. So yeah.
Like now y'all see why we call her Stevie Make It Rain Warren. Okay. That's amazing. That's really amazing. And just like just deeply impactful work that not only affects the people who are being plugged into these opportunities, but their families and their communities and generations beyond that are just saying like my daddy or my mom was a filmmaker or did this big thing. And, they're able to imagine themselves in that space a little more readily, right? Than they would know if they had that.
Yeah, I love that you said that because when we think of it's common for people to go into the same job field that their parents do. And we see it all the time in the petroleum industry and nursing and law and all of that. And being able and seeing more people, here taking on that role, and they're able to, like you said, it's more readily available for the young people if they see their parents or their big cousins or whatever working in the film industry, and they see that they could possibly do it themselves. So I love that you said that. Yeah.
Yeah. This idea of, I've been thinking about, sanctuary and like the different ways that people are defining it. And it feels like you're building legacy with just plugging people in. Like sanctuary is a space to build legacy. And that's what a lot of the work is, and keeping the work here is starting like a line of it, So it seems like both of y'all are super busy. You're always working. Every time I'm checking up on either one of y'all, I got dropping another project, or Stevie, you're plugging in somebody else. We're talking about another show. It's just a lot of work. Not only, I think it's really interesting because film, it's work, but it's also like psychic work, it's emotional work, it's all these things. You work so closely with people, it's personal work, and it can be exhausting, right? Especially when you don't have a lot of support systems in place. Like, how do you sustain the work that you do? Like, how do you keep your head above water in a way? Because there's so much work that needs to be done. There's so many filmmakers that need to be plugged in, and there's just so many stories that need to be told, and like really supporting crewing up locally and really making sure that the folks who show up on your set show up full, show up in a way better to tell the story, and keeping it hyper local. Like it feels exhausting, right? How do you sustain that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Ooh, I feel like it's a constant like checking in with myself. It's a constant balance of, firstly checking in with myself to make sure that, like to check in with my anxieties, my worries, my fears, my, everything. And so, I do that every day. I would highly, I do morning pages, which comes from a book written by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way that I really like swear by. It's helped keep me
Yes.
sane through COVID. I kind of started it during COVID, and I haven't missed a day of just like waking up, getting out of bed, and just like writing 2 to 3 pages longhand. That just I
That's
check
the
in.
secret sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got
Like,
it.
there really is something I think like very special about writing longhand.
Mhm.
And just like and doing a stream of consciousness, so I'm not gonna get too deep into evangelizing, Julia Cameron but the book is called The Artist's Way. And so I try to like do some of the stuff that she mentions in the book, specifically morning pages, to check in with myself, and just to have a safe place to express myself, because the internet is not that, social media is not that, the work that we do is not always that, sometimes friends and family is not that, and so for me, I'm able to do that every day with morning pages, first thing in the morning to start my day off. And then I think secondly, it's like on a very practical sense, I guess I'm like revealing that I'm an incredibly practical person as a Virgo. Yeah, I keep a calendar.
It's giving Virgo. Yeah.
Yeah. I do keep a very tight calendar. Like I have the whole month like laid out in front of me. I'm dedicating time literally to, like, if I need to check in with myself, if I need to take a walk, if I need to talk to certain people to like just
You
maintain
schedule your walks?
relationships. Hell yeah.
Oh
Absolutely.
wow, you are very Virgo. Wow.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
that's what's up.
absolutely. Absolutely. Just put it, because for me, what I learned is if it's not on the calendar, there's so much going around, there's so much happening, I'm gonna forget about it. So it has to be on the calendar, or else I will, and this is like recent knowledge for me, just like learning to not self-neglect in the process of chasing the dream. Like that stuff really does at a certain point affect your health, it affects your, mental health, it affects everything. And you got to keep the body functioning, you got to keep, the soul and the spirit alive in order to keep doing like quality work, to do work that touches other people. And I feel like that's just become more and more challenged by the media landscape and the world that we live in today, where we're just constantly bombarded with like all of the craziness, and so I find it takes like disconnection from all that, and like intentional planning, and intentionally just like following through on plans. And then I think the other thing, and probably the biggest part of all of this, is I in the early days of my career, I definitely had and maybe to a degree still do have a tendency to kind of be a little bit of a loner, and to just kind of try to do things myself. And I've really come to find that a lot of that was just about not having people around me who I felt like I could trust and be vulnerable with. And I feel like, sorry. I feel like I've really found that with a lot of people here in New Orleans. This is crazy. I didn't talk myself into breaking down emotionally. But I really find that like the work that I do is impossible to do without like the support system, the family and the friends who are around me, who are elevating me constantly, and who I try to elevate as well, just in getting the work done and surviving. Like this stuff is hard. The work is hard. And so I give a lot of credit to, to organizations like Novak, to organizations like the New Orleans Film Society, but then also to like lovely friends like Zuri, like Marianne, like Stevie, Zandashay, Zaf, who moved to LA, and Raina.
We miss you, Zaf.
Yeah, exactly. So many like people who have poured into me, like they're the ones who make this possible. And so it's just about maintaining a connection to those people and just having like real conversations, like the conversations where you really are just vulnerable about the stuff that's like bothering you in life and the industry, all that stuff. I find it's like, it's just incredibly important to being able to keep going.
I feel all of that. I feel all of that. Just this idea of, community being part of that, right? And sustaining you and keeping you wrapped. I also think it's funny that you ask a Virgo, like, how do you relax? I keep a tight schedule.
100%. 100%.
That's how I relax.
Yeah,
Actually, why am I
exactly.
talking to you? You're not on the schedule.
I haven't answered my phone in 5 years. Unscheduled calls. Like, what are we doing?
It's like, why are you calling? Like, I didn't get a ding. But no. Stevie, thank you so much, A, for just, again, I want to take some time. Thank you, A, for being vulnerable. And like that, for me, that is so true. It's just this community, y'all, I don't want to keep evangelizing it, but like, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, unless, somebody wants to sponsor my move and pay the rent where I'm going. But yeah, this has been a community that's kept me yoked. When I tell you, like, together, and I was saying earlier to Angela how, like, some people consider New York is where you go to make it, and like some people experience the South is where you make yourself. And it's like, I would not be who I am if it wasn't for the community mirroring back at me and being like, no matter how you show up, like, you got it. You got it, right? Not that you need to be or get anywhere. You're here, you're there, right? And we're here to support you wherever you're going. And I feel like that's been offered through New Orleans Film Society, through NOVAC, through other organizations, and just, unofficial organizing, right? Random communities that are coming together to do these like music videos and films and like really weird things that are just like, hey, it's Sunday, let's go shoot something. And it's like, all right, let's get up, right? I feel like that's something that I've experienced here, and I'm not sure if other folks have experienced it too. If you have, please shout out your Southern city that does that and supports that kind of community. But yeah, to that, Stevie, talking about what sustains you, and then we can move into this clip that provides some inspiration for you. I don't know if you want to do that first, and then, really talk about what sustains you, or however you want to move, but kind of just want to know what keeps you keep you going.
I don't really have much to add after what Abe said. I'm trying to choke up myself now after hearing him. But I will say that one through line is that I'm nothing without my support system. And tapping in with them, leaning in on them, reciprocating that energy. I gotta shout out my boss, India, because she's been very instrumental in helping me personally and professionally be able to identify and build boundaries for myself. And then also be able to, when you said being able to trust people, that's the thing. You don't have to do everything by yourself, but it's a matter of building trust with the people around you to be able to delegate or lean on them for those things. So I've been able to have more capacity to help others more because I've been able to tap into trusting the people around me. I also journal. So like I said, when everything he was saying, I was like, yes, retweet. But but yeah, I that is how I keep going, is I keep, close to my support system in my community. It's like, I don't know any other way to explain it, but yeah.
And take walks, all that, and take walks. Walks really do, movement, motion, and connecting to the rhythm of the place where you live, especially if you're out here in the South. I find it's a really, really big part of just staying sane and staying connected and just detaching, getting out, getting away from the work for 15 minutes at a time is a wonderful thing for your health.
Those mini breaks make all the difference.
Yeah, I was talking to Angela earlier about City Park, and just how that really was just I don't know where my brain would be if I didn't have those trees, right? If I didn't have that space, that park of just getting out. And the thing is, the reality is not a lot of folks have that access to space and sanctuary. And especially when it's the rural South, right? When we're talking about the South, we really need to nuance that and really need to differentiate that the South is very different for different folks, right? Atlanta is not, Macon, Georgia, right? It's not, Okeechobee, Florida is not Miami, Florida, right? And rural communities have a different engagement with it. But having space and access to sanctuary really is what feels like the through line between you two, is that, you know, this is what keeps you wrapped and keeps you doing what you're doing. Because like, I don't think anybody would be doing film if you don't love it, right? In a sense of like, if you're not, I feel like another thing that I've kind of gotten from both of you is like, if you're not having fun, it's not success, right? If it's not fun, and you're not successful. You could be a billionaire, but you're not successful, right? So before we turn it over to the Q&A, I can talk to y'all forever because, you know, y'all are just the homies. But I want to give some folks some time and space to ask them some questions. But Stevie, before we go into that part, do you want to share this clip and then maybe tell us a little bit about how it helps you keep going?
Yeah, we can cue that up.
She always taught me the scripture, if you remain faithful over few things, he'll make you ruler over many. So that lesson to me was being committed to your local ministry and not thinking because you become somebody, you can't be, you know, connected to where you come from.
Very good.
Yeah.
Because you become somebody doesn't mean you're not connected to where you came from. So, you know, unpack that for us and how it just keeps you going.
Yeah, and I told you earlier, like, you know, I chose this clip in particular because you had asked us to provide, you know, something that maybe represented where we were and how it connected to this conversation. And I watched it right after you asked. So I was like, okay, well, you know, no, I'm gonna add this, and that's actually one of my favorite scriptures. So it's something that I hold dear to my heart, and I try to live through that and by that. But yeah, I think that, you know, there's the saying of like, to whom much is given, much is required, or much is expected. I'm sorry, and you know, that kind of spoke to that clip as well, where it's like, you get all of this access, or you get all of this freedom, like your job is to help other people access that as well. And if anybody is going to get it, you need to be doing that to the people that are from your community. I don't want to ever separate from that, you know, regardless of if I'm working on recruiting for a show in LA, like it's always a priority for me to connect people from my home state to opportunity. So like, I really love that clip, and I love that scripture, and I like how she worded it. So I wanted to share it.
Thank you so much for sharing that, you know, giving us an insight on like the words and just some of the things that sustain you and keep you going, you know, because we need both of y'all to keep going, right? We need y'all to keep going. But yeah, awesome. So we did have a question. I kind of lost it. So let me dig through this for a second. And I think India answered it, but maybe y'all can provide some answers as well. Okay, here it is. From Tulio, what's the best way to cold call film companies, nonprofits around your area? I've reached out to all of them, but it seems like the HR teams are not really on the ball. So yeah, how do folks, like, especially, again, we're talking about rural communities and spaces where it's not just, you know, opportunity is not just there in the street or whatever. Like, how do you just slide in DMs and cold call? Because you slid in some DMs. So like, give us some tips.
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak especially from a nonprofit perspective. Typically, nonprofits are under-resourced. So, you know, we're only a staff of, I want to say 11 or 12. We're a very small staff. I think, and it's easiest to, like, if I'm talking about myself, the easiest way to reach me is email. Like, calling me is like, you know, I'm gonna get back with you, but email is the best way to reach, you know, me. But I think one thing with nonprofits, typically they're separated by programs. I think it's always a good idea to research what the nonprofit does and who does what, and make sure that whatever it is that you're trying to access, or what information you're trying to gain is aligned to the person that you're trying to reach out to, if that makes sense. So my strategy would be to, like, okay, if I'm somebody, like, I like to give examples. I'll say, like, let's say I'm a independent filmmaker. I want to make my own film. Like, I would go on Novak's website look at creative services, these are the folks that are helping people either get into a cohort or get access to equipment or get training so that they can make their own film. I'll look at who's the program manager. Okay, this is who I need to contact directly. Sometimes another good, I guess, strategy is to copy like the info at, because typically like a lot of nonprofits don't have capacity to have like an actual HR department. So they might have like a communications manager, maybe a coordinator who's kind of like keeping an eye on the general email. So I would reach out to that program manager or coordinator directly for what you're looking for. Copy the info at, because it might get to them first, and then they could reroute the inquiry or what have you. But I'll say like for Novak, the easiest way to reach people is to email them. And then I know a lot of other nonprofits, they're very big on like socials. So depending on like, you know, they have like people dedicated to social media to respond to DMs and things like that. And your follow-up game has to just be strong. Like I'm queen follow-up, like I am going to follow up. And also too, a big thing is like keeping the communication chain like in the same place, like sending multiple emails with different subject lines and all of that. That's how things get, you know, slip between the cracks. So I think, and then it's good to have for somebody to have a point of reference. Like if you're following up, then they can see, oh, I reached out to you a month ago about this thing, just following up on, you know, my inquiry from last month. And then that will keep you at the top of their inbox as you follow up. I mean, that's my advice, you know, just coming from somebody who works at a nonprofit and gets a lot of calls and emails on a daily is, you know, yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up. Sage advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Abe, from an independent filmmaker perspective, how do we break down doors, cold call people, and slide in their DMs successfully?
Yeah, I feel like Stevie and India like really took care of that one. I'm not even gonna lie, because I'm not the type to cold call and cold email. That's just like I don't do it like at all.
That's your Virgo. You like, I don't call people, they call me.
Like, like
the dream comes to you, right?
That is exactly, that's what I said, you know. And I think it's coming from like that mentality, and maybe like that as a life philosophy. It's just like I'm trying to attract it, not chase it. And so you know, it's really like what I've kind of focused on for myself personally, and this is like being in the urban South. Like I've been able to kind of focus on you know, building my network, building building up, you know, my skill set, my real myself as an artist, and just like focus on that, and then just like let the chips fall where they may. Yeah, so you know, I honestly cannot give a lot of advice there, except for one thing, which is just as far as like access to people, as far as like connecting with people. If you're sending emails and you're just not like, you're running into like brick walls, I think like maybe a practical thing would be, rather than trying to connect with those people, maybe connect with other people who have connected with those people, and like maybe get an in that way. Because I had this friend who said this thing I never forgot. He's like, you either come recommended or you come recognized. And like, you know, you gotta sometimes it helps to be recognized by someone outside of that organization who has, you know, that person's direct phone number, the person who you're trying to connect with, like, and they're now helping you to connect with the people you're trying to connect with, you know, and like and do that a bit more directly. So, you know, I'd say maybe try that, but that is not a strategy I have tried.
It's not tested.
That works. That works. And I think it's also important to, like, if you do go in that strategy and like you connect with that person, maybe have a conversation with them, like letting them know, hey, can I just kind of like mention that you recommended me? Exactly. That goes a long way as well. I always say, like, especially if it's a cold email, keep it short and cute, but give context. Like, what exactly is it what's your ask? What is it that, you know, you feel that you can give, if it's a reciprocity thing. And then if you're trying to get a job, go ahead and put that, it's not presumptuous. Go ahead and put that resume in the email because that way we're not doing all of this back and forth. It's like, oh, okay, I got all the information I need. I know who sent you to me. I know what you want. And now I have your credentials. Bam. Like, yeah.
Wow. Okay. This is a great space to kind of end it with these, starting off with our personal connections of home, and then really just giving some sound advice for those that want to call the South home, to kind of build out their networks and their support system and their structure. So just want to thank y'all again for your wisdom and your time, your work, and sharing your sanctuary with us, Stevie and Abe. We opened the day with a really powerful essay and talk with Angela, where we meditated on nature, access to sanctuary, and how complicated it can be, especially when race is involved. We were also followed by an expansive conversation about Southern identity by Nolan Walker. And Colleen helped us understand sanctuary as a diasporic movement, much like rivers that she calls home. And, with this talk, we really got to the space of how it is to build structure, to choose home, and what it means to choose to stay here, and the value that it has not only in our lives, but our community. So yeah, this year's South Summit convening has helped me expand my notion of sanctuary beyond like a fixed and physical space. And for me, my idea of sanctuary has become something more. It's become, this definition, this notion of sanctuary as story, sanctuary as movement, sanctuary as solid tree trunks, sanctuary as liquid rivers, and sanctuary is where power is made possible. Coming into this convening, my sanctuary was New Orleans, this local community, but being in conversation with folks like you, Stevie, Abe, and the rest of the speakers and panelists, like I found a more expansive this definition of sanctuary and our sharing of our hopes, our dreams, our ideas, and this love for this home that may not always love us back, right? But it shelters us, it contains us, it sustains us. And like it or not, the South is of us. So this gathering has been really, truly amazing. And I thank you everyone for your minds, your thoughts. And no matter where you're tuning in from to watch South Summit, I hope you found sanctuary in the spaces that you call home. This concludes our South Summit 2023. Thank you again for all the speakers, our sponsors, our audience members, for tuning in and lending your voice to this conversation. Also, thank you to Lynn for helping us navigate this virtual space with so much grace. Thank you, Marin, for being the best chat master this side of Mississippi. And thank you, Clint, for all of your guidance, your support, and helping me plan in this year's convening. And thank you to the rest of the New Orleans Film Society staff, and the entire New Orleans film community for everything that you do and give to our local filmmakers and our local storytellers. This is goodbye for now, everyone. I will see you at next year's South Summit convening. Love y'all.